Okay, let's get started with this. I've got the 1229 experiment open. I made one change. I actually, before I got the data from you, I had actually decided to, out of curiosity, to open up the images. And so I did some image enhancement on the original images, and I called those LA, lighting adjustments. And in order for these programs to work properly, I had to take the lighting adjusted images and put them into the normal S2 file. The ones that you sent, I've saved over here and called them raw. So we're using these image enhancements. Now, if you want to try to do the image enhancement yourself, there's a tutorial on it. I believe it's called image enhancement. And the two functions that you use are change lightness, which will give you an idea of a single image, and how you can change the lightness, and then batch change lightness. When you figured out what method you want to use to change the lightness, you can change the lightness for all of the images in a particular folder. So there we go. Okay, so what are we going to do? What we need to do is set up a second depth wave for all of the data and the images, actually in a different sense. That's independent and allows us to move data around. So you see right now we start out, we've got MBSF, and that's the depth of record, if you will. So in order to set up another depth wave, first we need to go to our includes files and get the other menu that we need, and that's includes splicing new menu. So let's double click on that guy. And looks like he compiled okay, so we'll just hide him. And we get this create splice menu. All right, in that menu, if you go to set up, you will see initialize offset waves. Okay, and this is a warning in case you already have offsets. This function will wipe them out, so don't use it if you've halfway through doing your shifts. You should only do this at the very beginning. We say yes, and we'll set some offsets for A. We want another hole, and we'll set some offsets for C. Another hole, we'll set some offsets for D. Another hole, and we'll set some offsets for E. And we'll continue, and we'll say no. Okay, and you'll get this table. For what you're doing, don't even worry about it. I would just close it. Okay, so here we are. Now, we want to form those waves based on the offset. So let's take a look at the offsets first. There. We'll edit. So here's our offset table. And what you see is all of the first cores have a 0 offset. The second cores are all offset by 1 meter, and the third by 2 meters, and so on and so forth. Now we're going to apply these offsets to the data. So let's just go up here, and we want to process offsets. So let's go to the COD data menu, processing. It's also under the image menu, and we want to process offsets. Okay, and here we put in the list of holes, and we're going to do A, D, and E. Here we put in the data or techniques, and we're going to also do the images. MBSF is the data type that we've got already, and we want output to MCD. So let's run that. And now you see we have this MCD, MBSF. Okay. Now, let's plot the data versus this MCD depth scale. And there's a couple of different plots that you want to use, and there's some really simple ways to make them efficiently. So let's go. Let's start out with the GRA data, for instance. So we go to GRA, and say plotting, and we want data multiplot. Okay, so here we are, A, D, and E. Well, MS, so we'll do MS. So the depth age type, we want MCD as the depth. The depth axis name is depth. This is going to be a new plot. We don't want to splice. And now here we can do multi or single axis, and in fact we're going to do both. First let's do the multi-axis. Continue. And there it is. Okay, now we can go back down here. Just copy that whole command. Everything's going to be the same. Instead of multi-axis, we want to put in single. Single axis. Okay, and there we've got a single axis plot with one data point that's kind of off the charts, but that's all right. Yeah, just set that up for the moment. Okay, and let's give them some different colors. I like it that way. So I usually use A for red, C, let's see, D. I usually use some kind of brown. And E, we don't get E all that often, but in this case, let's make it a nice green. So there we go. We've changed the colors on those guys. Now if we go up to this graph, again, all we need to do is copy that line, and we get the same color changes here. Okay, so now we've got these two graphs. Now let's do the same thing for MS. And we can do that by doing data multiplot. Or, I'm sorry, we did MS. Let's do GRA. And everything, multi-axis, everything's the same. And there we go. And we do this guy, and we do this. And we can do single axis like that. And there we go. And then we can do these modified graphs here. Instead of MS, we would say GRA underscore GRA. GRA underscore GRA. And we get the same colors there, and if we go here, and modify graph again. So there we go. We got the data both in on top of each other and separated. And I think I'm going to shift these off the screen for the moment, but I think the MS was much more useful. Okay, we're almost there. Now, I also like to have a plot with images for kind of a check. So let's go here. Let's do another multi-plot, and we're going to do images and MS. So first we do the data multi-plot, and we want the multi-axis data multi-plot. Multi-axis, MS. There we are. We can do the colors again, like that. All right, now let's append the images. So if we go up to COD image, plotting, and we want, we want image, core image multiplot. Same thing, A, B, A, D, and E. The size is going to be S2. So we're using those S2 folders. It's going to be depth. We're going to append them, and we don't want to change. So we're going to append these onto that plot, and there we go. Okay, now a couple other functions you want to be interested in. If you go up to COD data or COD image, you'll find plotting, there we go. Control 5, age or depth axis range. Okay, so we want to do depth, and we want to do 0 to, let's say, 40. And later on, if we want to rerun this, it'll automatically shift the data by 30. Now, what you notice is when you use that Control 5 plotting, this guy right here, it changes the depth axis range for all of the plots. So that's kind of convenient. Okay, and now let's set the data ranges. We set the depths. Now let's set these. So if we go up to COD data, plotting, and it is set data range. Okay, so the data is MS, and let's go from 0 to, let's make it 100 to start out with. And then, do we want to do only this top graph, or do we want to do MS on all our graphs? And in this case, I believe we want to do all, so we just say continue there, and there we go. And you can see, we'll put this guy out too. So we have all the same depths and ranges of values. Okay, so I think we're kind of set now. I'm going to save the experiment. So let's take a look. So that a lot of times we would normally be using the images to do some of the initial shifting, but because of the way these things have been butchered, if you will, I think we're going to use the MS data. Okay, so here's how I like to do it. Let's make this guy bigger. Okay, so the first thing we can do is let's take all of these and make them a little bit bigger. How about, say, 3? Do that. Okay. Now, so one thing we need to do, which we can do from here, you always, when you pick a feature, I'm gonna put these two features, I'm gonna join these two features at the same depth. And when you do that, in the first core, what you're doing is you have to pick one of these. You have to pick one of these cores to be like the anchor, that is the top. And to do that, you want to adjust to the feature that is the deepest. So in this case, the B cursor, which is on E, is at 2.82 meters, and the A cursor is at 2.75. So we want to shift 2.75 down to 2.82 so that the very top of this guy will move down. If we did it the other way around, this guy would move. We would shift him up to here. This guy would move up, and in fact, the top then would be above 0, which we definitely would not like to see. So, how do we do this, you ask? And it's pretty simple. If you go up to the Create Splice menu, you'll see something that says Shift Offsets B to A and then 1 core. All right, so what are we going to do? We want to shift B to A. So let's put A at the point where we want to shift to, and we'll put B at the point that we want to shift. Okay? And then we go up and we say shift offsets B to A, and we just kind of want to do one core. I'll talk about that in a second. All right, now if we look at the offsets, now in the A we've actually added 6 centimeters to the A depth. And to make that work, we go up to, or actually we go back down here, and if we find, there we go. All we need to do is copy out process offsets, do this, and you can see that guy's shifted. Didn't shift a whole lot, but it shifted. All right, now let's take a look at what I usually like to use for this operation. Well, let's just expand this guy. Do a horizontal expand. Now you can see we just actually set up these two guys. That was the shift that we made, and it actually looks pretty good. So we've got these guys together. It doesn't really look to me like we'll get much satisfaction from D, but if we want to. So here's the way that you can play around with this. Put the cursor on one of these curves, hold it down, hold the clicker down until you see this happen. And then you can play with this guy and, put him, kind of check where he might line up. And so let's say, just for argument's sake, I would never depend on this 100%. But let's say we want to equate that with that. So we'll put B there, and we will put A, say there. Okay. Now we're going to shift offsets B to A one core. Well, actually, before I do that, just to show you how it works. So we've messed around with this thing. If we double click now, we can go back here and just unclick this offsets. Now it's back to where it should be. And now if you shift offsets B to A, and then we process offsets, and you see that guy moves. Not very much. Let's do another one. Okay, let's go back to, that's not what I wanted. Let's go back here. So this looks like there should be something useful in here. So let's do a horizontal expand on that one. All right, so when things look a little confused, a good thing to do is to initially at least hide one of them. So let's get rid of E, like so. Okay, now what we can do is mess around with these guys, and I would say this looks pretty good. So that means we want to shift this core to here or vice versa. The only thing you got to worry about is make sure you haven't, if you've already shifted this core to be lined up with something else, in this case we haven't, don't reshift it. You'll run into this every once in a while. Hopefully you'll get over it quickly. Oh, and actually, let's see, go up to functions, cursor styles, let's go to the B and A. So we're going to shift this guy B to this guy A. And once again, we do the same thing. We shift offsets, B to A, one core, and we process offsets. And then if you remember before, modify graph offset equals 0. There we are. All right, this is actually looking fairly good. Now we can, whoops, maybe a little overdid it there. I would get rid of this point. So let's put this guy up here. That is D and point 1079. So if you go up here and you say COD data, make data table D, and we want MS, continue. And what point did I say that was? 1079. Oops. Oh, come on. Yes, IGOR. Okay, there's 1079 right there. And we can see there's a number of big numbers there. Let's make this, actually let's just get rid of this one. Control X. And how about Control X? I'm not sure if that's a point that you'd want to actually use for correlation, so oops. You obviously can be more careful of this when you do it yourself. There we go. That's a little better. Okay. No save. All right. Let's go back to this. Horizontal expand. Okay, so we've kind of aligned this. We've sort of aligned that. Let's hide this guy now and unhide that guy. Now we can do the same trick we did with E or D. And well, I don't know. Let's see. I think if you line up these guys here, which looks fairly real, it also lines up these guys, so let's do that. So we want to shift, let's shift the green to the red. So there's our green and there's our red. And we want to, oops, shift offset speed at A, 1 core, like so. Process offsets, like so. And then make sure you reset the offset so you don't confuse yourself. There we go. That looks pretty good too, actually. This is a little weird. I don't know what you might do with this. Looks like core 2. I don't see a lot of joy in that one. Maybe that. Anyway, that's the entire process. Just to make, just for completion's sake, here's the GRA, and this should all get shifted as well. So yeah, that looks okay. Yeah, I don't know about those. I wouldn't depend on GRA too much because of the poor condition of the core. I would stick with MS, and then you know, one thing you can do. Let's see. Modify offset. Oops. Where are you? one thing that's nice to do, so you're looking at 20 to 25. Now you can go down here. Have a look and see if those things kind of look right. And, yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Of course, we can't, unfortunately, we can't see what's going on here. Let's see. What are we looking at? This one. Let's take a look at D, right? Oh, no. Yeah, D. So let's hide that guy, go back to D, unhide, do that. Okay, yeah, so it looks like D's got this little doublet and this peak too. So let's try moving that guy to that guy. So shift offsets B to A. Get rid of the offsets already. And let's process offsets. Where are we? Oops. Let's shift to the process offsets. There we are. Ah, there we go. Okay, and if we open this guy up, that guy, do him, that. Ah, so you see they all line up pretty well. So you are getting some coherence. And I'm going to stop right there. This is probably enough to give you some questions, since my tutorials are not always the best. So give it a try. See how far you can get. Let me know what kind of problems you're encountering, and we'll chug on from there. Take care.